Welcome on the Deadwoodjedi. This is going to be a King Arthur's Legends Rise video. And been really enjoying this game. I don't know what else to say. I've been playing it pretty much every day. And I think I'm going to keep doing little periodic videos on it about once a week or so. Try and mix it in with my usual content. But I do want to give a big shout out to King Arthur's for sponsoring today's video and sponsoring the last couple. It's been kind of fun, and I'm really appreciative that I probably wouldn't have been playing this if it wasn't for them, and I'm so glad I did. So if you guys are interested, make sure I hit the download link in the pinned comment or description of this video, and you can start playing King Arthur's Legend Rise as well. But today we've talked about, so I kind of want to continue what I've been talking about. So far, we've talked about all the basics of this game, right? I talked about the general overview of everything. And then I talked about like getting your first champion to 6-star and trying to overcome that little hurdle, and then trying to finish the normal campaign and overcome that hurdle. And today I want to talk about another thing that was a real learning curve for me, at least initially, and that's gear, the equipment that you put on your champion. I feel like that's a really important part of this game that in the beginning, it's not super important, right? You can kind of just put whatever on your guys and you're going to eventually get better and better and grow and grow. But at some point, you actually have to start making some plans here. You have to make some decisions about what you're putting on your guys. And I figured today I would take a minute and talk a little bit about those decisions. Now, there's basically three different types of gear, okay? So we'll go look at our champions here, and I'll give you an idea what I'm talking about here. We've got, we look here at Tristan, we've got our armor over here on the one side with the helmet, the chest piece, the boots. We've got our jewelry here on the other side with the necklace, the earrings, and the ring. And then we've got down below here, we've got our keepsakes, and that's going to be a belt, an orb, and a banner. I haven't unlocked everything for all my champions. Some of them have orbs, some of them don't. None of them have banners yet. But the idea is that you're going to get, you basically have 9 pieces of gear that you put on your characters. Now, every piece of gear obviously has 2 major components. One would be the stars it has on it. I don't know what they call that. Do they call that something? I think it's just stars. Yeah, so you got the number of stars that you have on it, right? And the more stars, the better. Basically, what that's going to do is give you a difference in the top level stat. The main stat of that gear is going to be based off the stars. And then the other thing you have is the rarity. So it goes from uncommon, the white pieces, it goes from common, the white pieces, to uncommon, those green ones, the rare, which are blue, and then the gold ones, which are the legendary. And what that's going to do is change the substats of the piece. So let's take a quick look at one of these pieces here. This is a legendary helm I've got here. And you can see it's got 3 substats already there. That's because it's legendary. I haven't rolled it or anything, so it just starts there. If I look at a blue rare helm, it's only got 2 substats. An uncommon helm, doesn't matter how many stars, it's only going to have 1 substat, right? As you level it up, those substats will level up as well. Obviously, on the first time you get it, basically it breaks down every 3 levels, it'll increase one of the substats. So at level 3, it'll increase this HP percentage. And at level 6, you'll get a brand new substat. Now, if you were talking about rares, at level 3 it would upgrade one of those 2, and at 6 it would upgrade one of those 2 again. It's all random, maybe the same one twice, maybe a different one each time. And then on the 3rd time, when you rank it up to 9, it'll be a brand new substat. Same thing goes as you go up in rarity. I imagine there might already be, and I'm just not familiar with it yet, but I imagine there will be a mythical level at some point where you'll have all 4 substats. Just kind of future looking at that, right? Built in a little bit of progression there for you. Now, the stars can go anywhere from 1 star, 6 stars, as far as I know. 6 stars is obviously the best. And by the time you get to the end game, or you like really start to get into the game, most of your gear is going to be 6 star, I imagine. When you talk about the different dungeons that you can do to get gear, right? Whether it's the nest, origin, fortress, whichever, right? When we go in there, at the end levels, the end levels, you're getting 6-star gear. You can see it down here in the corner. That 6-star gear is what you get. The level before that, you get 6-star gear. The level before that, you get 5-star gear. So I think 5-star gear is definitely going to be something that people will use towards the end game. But obviously, the best accounts will all have 6-star gear at that point, because that's what you'll be farming. And it doesn't matter which pieces we're talking about. It's going to be the same kind of concept there. Now, as far as like what is it that we can get? There's a bunch of different sets. They all break down into either 2, 3, or 4 piece sets. The 3 pieces are only for your relics, right? And actually, this is not the place I should look at that. I'm sorry, only for your keepsakes. It's a bunch of new terminology. It's a little challenging for me, to be honest, but right here, the keepsake sets you get from the Fortress of Arcelius, right? And I haven't unlocked it yet, but you can see clearly, right? We have the Corrosion set, Immortal set, Strife set. They're all 3 pieces. And the reason why they're 3 pieces is obviously because it's just for those keepsakes, right? Where you only have 3 slots there. So if you have a full set, you'll get these abilities, and they're very good. Corrosive, you can add damage over time effects, right? That's always a really nice thing to add. Immortal set might be the strongest one. This one sounds insane to me, but you get a 2-hit barrier for 3 turns. And these all have cooldowns, right? So both of those are 3-turn cooldowns you have. And then Strife is when a target dies, you gain a bunch of like damage type of stats as 2-turn cooldown. So this one seems like it's much more geared towards, I don't know, like mobs and that kind of thing, waves of enemies where you have a lot of people that you can kill. The other 2 definitely seem like they're much more geared towards, boss stuff, right? Damage over time effects. You want big HP results so that the damage is having a bigger effect. And the Mortal is obviously so you can take more hits and survive longer. I think those 2 are going to be the ones everybody's going to be using, right? So that's something that you're going to get eventually. The harder question, I think, because let's be real, in the beginning, most of the time, I think, when you make relics, you can craft them here at the forge. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of times, there are some other sets here too, right? We have Fortitude set. This one does, you recover 40% of your HP when you get below 20%. Pretty awesome, quite frankly. I think that's a pretty crazy thing. It's a one-time use. The Focus set, it basically adds different buffs based off the type of champion you are, which is pretty cool. And that happens at the start of the battle. And then you've also got this Unity set, which grants you Unity, basically ups your attack and defense for all allies of the same element. So all these are available here that you can craft. But what ends up happening a lot of times, I think, if we go down here, is you end up getting, especially in the beginning, basic sets, right? Which don't have any set attachment to them. You just have base stuff because you only craft what you can craft. Eventually, they'll usually start getting those sets. So it does make sense to focus on the ones that you're going to want to use there. And by the way, the Forge is a great place to get equipment, right? It's kind of built into the game. You get the pieces, so you should be forging stuff as you go through. I've been spending a lot of my time forging counter sets because I feel like they're very useful and universally so. But obviously you can pick and choose which sets you want to build. Now you'll also notice these sets here, they break down into 4 and 2-piece sets. And like I said, some of them I think you can only forge, and some of them you can definitely get from those equipment dungeons. But the 4-piece sets are bigger sets, so they're going to have like different kind of effects. So you have the attack sets give you 30% attack bonus. Speed set is really nice, gives you extra speed. We have the drain set, which I think helps you, like you can basically heal up a little bit as you do damage. I'm actually not as big a fan of it, at least not at my level. Maybe at higher levels it makes more sense, or against certain enemies it makes more sense, but so far it's just not enough to really be worth it. I think you're going to get more bang out of your bucks from the other sets, especially early on. Heal sets will help your healing go better. Vigor set is, this is just a great set because it adds 1 vigor. So, at the start of your turn, instead of getting 1 vigor, you're getting 2. That's a huge thing. And if you use big skills, vigor is a great way to go. Early on, it might be the best set to get. Elemental set adds more of those damage over time effects, which is really great. Percentage chance, so it's not every time, but you do have that ability to be able to drop those in there. So anyway, those 4-piece sets are good. I think, I'm just going to make this kind of universal right now. Depending on the champion you have, some sets are going to be better. If you have a damaged attacker, attack set's going to be very good. If you have a healer, obviously a heal set will be very good. And I think everybody is going to benefit from a vigor set, an elemental set, and a speed set. The more attacks you do, the faster you go, the better it is all the way around. So speed is good for everybody. Vigor is good for everybody because you're being able to use your skills. The only ones I would say maybe you don't necessarily want to use vigor. Actually, no, I think vigor could be good for anybody. If you're using big skills, and I think you're going to, that's going to be a set that's going to be really, really helpful. Not everybody in your team needs it either, but having 1 or 2 can make a big difference. Drain set is the one that I just don't think is going to be really useful. So I don't really recommend it. But, you know, I could be wrong about that. And if I am, please let me know in the comments. I've only done so much of the game. I still have a lot more to do, which is part of the reason why I like this game. So let me know if I'm wrong about that, or you think I'm mistaken on any of this stuff in here. Please let me know. I'm still learning. So I'm trying to impart the things that I do know and have learned from other games and I'm applying here and seems to be working. Then we also have the 2-piece sets. And I think a lot of what we're going to be having, a lot of what you'll be having early on, a lot of what I've been having early on are these 2-piece sets. They're very flexible, right? It makes it a lot easier when you have 1 or 2 really good pieces to be able to put them on whichever champion you want and work around them. And it just makes gearing a lot easier. Now, I think the best one, hands down, is a counter set. I mean, you just get a free attack, right? And if your A1 ability has significant skills on it, whether that's damage over time effects, whether that's debuffs, whether that's raw damage or like multi-hit abilities or even healing, it's super, super useful. So counterattack is great on literally everybody. Resistance set, I think, is something that's going to come into play a little bit later once you're starting to have to resist big debuffs from enemies. Life set's great on your healers. A lot of times the healing, I know from my healers, it's based off your max HP. So having life sets on them makes for a perfect filler set. Accuracy, obviously, for your debuffers, so they land their debuffs. And then obviously the damage and the crit set are going to be really good for your damage dealers. Now, I've always been of the feeling that I would rather crit more often for less damage than crit less often for bigger damage. That's just me. I haven't broken down the numbers. I don't know the numbers. If someone out there has, I would love to hear it. But I think it makes a lot of sense to skip the damage set and focus on the critical set, at least early on, right? Once you start building guys with like 6-star gear and they're getting a lot of crit rate from their sub stats and from some of their gear pieces, I think then maybe you start going, okay, maybe I'll up the critical damage as opposed to the critical rate. But generally, I think crit rate is going to be a lot more helpful early on. And I think it's one of those things that's very, very useful for your damage dealers. So those are the set pieces here, right? So, you know, again, like focus on the speed sets. You want to focus on, I think speed, attack, and vigor are going to be your main 4-piece sets, but you don't have to use 4-piece sets. I think you can also focus on using a lot of 2-piece sets like life and crit and accuracy. I think those are going to be really good as well. So, you know, and counter set, how can I forget that? Counter set is going to be really, really good. I do want to talk just, you know, I think we pointed out, you know, the sets here that are going to be really good. The immortal set, I think, is just going to be huge early on. Just as far as like, you know, building up your guys, and also the corrosive set, especially when you're building dungeon teams specifically, or your specific dungeon champions, corrosive set's going to be really, really nice. And now real quick before we call it here, because I think that's the majority of stuff. The only other thing I want to talk about is, and I think this is actually the real challenge, the real trick here is, what am I putting on my guys? Like, and how am I ranking it up? Now, we did talk about how most, I think, you're going to be getting 6 and 5-star pieces. That's going to be your end game pieces. And nothing here can be ranked, to my knowledge, nothing gets ranked over 12, right? There's like a 5-star piece. It's up to 12. Everything, all the subsets are there. That's as high as it goes. It costs a lot of silver, and man, it is real expensive. I know it's not silver, they're coins or whatever the heck we call them. Gold. It's gold. Okay, it costs a lot of gold. God, that's really too simple. How did I not do that? It costs a lot of gold to level up your gear. I think we need to have some basic rules on that, because otherwise you end up wasting your gold on stuff that you're going to throw away in a week, and that just seems foolish in a game where gold is a really hard to get commodity. So I am doing this rule personally. First off, you can't rank any gear piece higher than the stars. So I can't rank a rank 2. Look, there's no enhance button here. 2 stars. It can only go up to rank 6. It's a nice little guardrail, and that's in there automatically, which I really appreciate. Actually, the 3 stars I can take up to 9, but I can't take it any farther. Here, we look at this one, right? The enhance button is gone there. So I think I'm not going to take anything to, I'm going to take 3 and 4-star gear. I'm taking that to rank 9, but I don't really want to take it to rank 12 unless I really, really need it for like some specific content piece. The rank 5 and the rank 6 stuff though, that I'm taking to rank 12, right? That I'm leveling up as high as I can. And I think for good reason. Those are pieces that I'm going to be able to keep on my account and use on my account for a very, very long time. And that's really, really important to, like, you know, you want to be very judicious with your gold, and you want to be smart about how you spend it. And I think that's going to be one of the better ways to go about doing it. Now, doesn't mean I haven't ranked something 4-star up to 12. Doesn't mean that you're not going to. There's always situations for stuff, but I think overall that should be kind of your guidepost, right? That should be the exception, not the rule. Now, the only last thing that I think is really, really important, and this is probably, this maybe this is more important than the last part, is what stats you can get on these gear pieces. Now, the armor, the main stat is all going to be flat stats. So it's all going to be the same. You only have to worry about the substats. So on the main, like, it's attack on the helmet, it's going to be defense on the chest, and it's going to be HP here on the boots, right? Those are always going to be the same there. The only thing you have to worry about are the substats. And I don't know how there comes a point where the substats matter. I'm definitely not at that level yet. So it takes a while to get to that point. But the main stats, they have such a big impact, do matter. And that's going to come into effect here with the jewelry and the keepsakes, because the main stat here can change. You'll notice I have defense percentage on this necklace. Not here. HP, flat stat. HP, flat stat. Defense, flat stat. HP, flat stat. Attack, flat stat. The idea with these, if at all possible, you want percentages on those main stats, right? It's not always possible. I haven't farmed enough. I haven't even unlocked the dungeon that can get me a lot of this better stuff. But I haven't spent a lot of time, farming equipment. I definitely haven't unlocked the dungeon to get me better keepsakes, right? But what you want, if at all possible, are percentages, with the one exception of, not on her. Who's it on? Yep. One exception of speed. Attack speed. Speed. It's so valuable. And you can get that only on the ring. Only on the ring and only on the orb, which I don't have it on. But only on the orb and only on the ring. Those are the two places where you can get speed, to my knowledge. And if you can, that is absolutely what you're going to want to do, at least early on. There's exceptions to every rule, but I think generally that's always what you're going to want to do. So percentages are going to be way more valuable than flat stats as something you're going to want to focus on if you can, right? Now, we can only work with the gear we have, just like we can only play with the champions we've got. So obviously you're limited to some extent, but if you have the opportunity to choose the percentage stats, choose speed over the flat stats. Just don't go with those. And that's the same thing applies to the substats, right? Even if you have the choice, if you're at the point where you're like, these things are pretty much the same except for these substats, you're probably going to want to go with the percentages over the flat stats. Pretty much, I would say universally, that's what you're going to want to do. So yeah, that's kind of the gear overview. I thought it was pretty quick. I think it's pretty quick. Getting out here before 20 minutes is up. That's pretty good for me, I would say. And it's kind of a lot of information to go through here, right? Making sure that you have the right main stats on your jewelry and your keepsakes is key. Making sure you're choosing the right set pieces, not only to farm, but also to forge. I think those things are going to be really important. And I would really suggest, because in the dungeons, you can farm some pieces, right? So like in Origins of Apollinaria, I just don't think anything in here is going to be what you're going to really want, except for maybe some life or some defense, like your tanky champions, your protection champions, maybe some defense, life for your healers. That could be really good. But early on, speed, crit rate, attack, those are going to be really, really big for you, right? I think those are going to be the sets that you're going to want to get mostly, at least until you open up the fortress. Everything else you need to forge. And the vitality, the vigor set is probably going to be one of the big things, as well as the counterattack sets. So those are the two that I would be focusing on in the forge, at least initially. And then the rest of it you can probably get from the dungeons themselves. I think that's probably the best way to go. But anyway, that's my thought. If you guys disagree, please let me know. By no means am I an expert yet at this game, but I do have some knowledge, and I feel like it's worth sharing, and I feel like you guys could probably benefit from it. So if you did, let me know that. I'd appreciate it. And again, if you are at all interested in playing King Arthur's Legends Rise, I really do recommend checking it out. If you like these kind of strategic RPG gacha style games, this is a really good one. You can download it using the link in my pinned comment or description of this video. So please do. And that's all we got for today, guys. So thanks so much for watching. Till next we meet on the Deadwood Jedi.